When Elon Musk arrived at Manhattan's most exclusive charity gala, the cold event organizer looked him up and down and said, "You don't belong here." Security turned him away while cameras flashed and the world watched his embarrassment. But Elon didn't get angry. He just walked away quietly and made one mysterious phone call. "Maya, it's time to activate Project Constellation." 1 week later, lights exploded across the American sky, visible from space. $200 million hit hospitals and schools at the exact same moment. The woman who rejected him watched her world crumble as the most spectacular charity event in history unfolded before her eyes. What was Project Constellation? And would Elon's perfect revenge destroy the woman who humiliated him, or transform her forever? The rain fell softly on Fifth Avenue as Elon Musk stepped out of his black sedan. He wore a simple black tuxedo, nothing fancy. No flashy watch, no designer shoes. Just a man in a regular suit walking toward the golden doors of Manhattan's Crystal Ballroom. Tonight was the Stars of Tomorrow charity gala, the most exclusive event in New York City. Everyone who was anyone would be inside, eating expensive food and writing big checks. Elon had received his invitation 3 weeks ago. He was excited to support the cause, helping young people achieve their dreams. The Crystal Ballroom glowed like a jewel in the darkness. Bright lights danced across its glass walls. Red carpet stretched from the street to the entrance. Photographers waited behind velvet ropes, their cameras ready to capture the rich and famous. Elon walked up the red carpet steps. His shoes clicked softly on the wet pavement. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his phone, checking the invitation email one more time. Everything looked correct. His name, the date, the time. At the entrance, a young security guard stood behind a podium. His nameplate read, Marcus Chen. Marcus looked nervous, checking his list over and over. Behind him stood a tall woman in a silver dress that probably cost more than most people's cars. This was Victoria Sterling, the event organizer. She had cold blue eyes and perfectly styled blonde hair. Her smile looked like it was painted on her face. She watched every guest who entered, deciding who belonged and who didn't. "Good evening," Elon said to Marcus, handing over his invitation. "Elon Musk." Marcus scanned his guest list carefully. His finger moved down the page once, then twice. His face grew worried. "I'm sorry, Mr. Musk," he said quietly. "But your name isn't on the list." Elon frowned. "That can't be right. I have the invitation right here." He showed Marcus his phone screen with the email. Victoria Sterling stepped forward, her heels clicking on the marble floor. "Is there a problem, Marcus? This gentleman says he's invited, but his name isn't on our list," Marcus explained. Victoria looked at Elon like he was a bug she wanted to step on. Her painted smile grew wider, but her eyes stayed cold. "Mr. Musk," she said, her voice sweet as poison. "I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding." "What kind of misunderstanding?" Elon asked, staying calm. Victoria crossed her arms. "This event is for established philanthropists, people who understand true charity work, not publicity stunts." She looked him up and down. "Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at a technology conference." Behind Victoria, other guests walked past them into the ballroom. They wore diamonds that sparkled like stars. They laughed and chatted about their expensive vacations and fancy cars. None of them looked at Elon or Marcus. "I see," Elon said slowly. His voice was quiet, but something had changed in his eyes. A photographer nearby noticed the conversation. He raised his camera and started taking pictures. Other reporters gathered around, sensing a story. Victoria noticed the cameras and spoke, louder. "Some people think money alone makes them belong everywhere," she said to her assistant, making sure the reporters could hear. "But real charity is about heart, not headlines." The assistant nodded quickly, writing notes on her clipboard. Marcus looked uncomfortable. His hands shook slightly as he held the guest list. "Ma'am, Maybe we could make an exception. Absolutely not. Victoria cut him off. Rules are rules, Marcus. We can't lower our standards. Elon looked at the golden doors of the ballroom. Through the glass, he could see the elegant party inside. Beautiful people in beautiful clothes, pretending to care about helping others. But their hearts seemed as cold as the winter night. Thank you for clarifying your position, Elon said to Victoria. His voice was calm, but his jaw was tight. He turned and walked back down the red carpet. The photographers followed him, their cameras flashing like lightning. The reporters shouted questions, but Elon didn't answer. At his car, Elon paused with his hand on the door handle. He looked back at the crystal ballroom one more time. Victoria stood in the doorway, watching him leave with a satisfied smile. Something changed in Elon's face. Not anger exactly. Something else. Something that looked almost like excitement. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number. The call connected immediately. Maya, he said quietly. It's time to activate Project Constellation. On the other end of the line, a woman's voice answered. Are you sure, Elon? Once we start this, there's no going back. Elon looked up at the dark sky above Manhattan. Stars were hidden behind the city lights, but he knew they were there, waiting. They made their choice tonight, Maya, he said, getting into his car. Now let's show them what real impact looks like. As his car pulled away from the crystal ballroom, Elon was already making more calls. His quiet revenge had begun. But what was Project Constellation? And why did Elon seem almost pleased that Victoria had rejected him? The golden doors of the crystal ballroom closed behind the last guest. Inside, the party continued. Outside, something much bigger was about to begin. 3 months earlier, the small coffee shop in Detroit smelled like burnt coffee and old dreams. Rain streaked down the dirty windows. Most of the tables were empty except for a few people typing on laptops or reading newspapers. Dr. Maya Rodriguez sat in the corner booth, her hands wrapped around a cold cup of coffee. She had been waiting for 2 hours. Her laptop was held together with silver tape. Her clothes were clean but worn. She had spent her last $20 on gas to drive here from her tiny apartment. Maya checked her phone again. Still no message. Maybe he wouldn't show up. Maybe this was all a waste of time. The door chimed, and Maya looked up. A man in jeans and a simple gray hoodie walked in. He looked around the coffee shop, then spotted Maya in the corner. She recognized him immediately. From pictures on the internet, Elon Musk. He walked over to her table and sat down. Maya? Sorry I'm late. Traffic was terrible. Maya's heart pounded. She had sent hundreds of emails to investors, scientists, and tech companies. Most never replied. A few sent form letters saying, no thank you. But somehow Elon Musk had agreed to meet her. Mr. Musk, thank you so much for coming, Maya said, her voice shaking slightly. I know you're incredibly busy. Just call me Elon, he said with a smile. And I'm never too busy for good ideas. Tell me about your research. Maya opened her laptop. The screen flickered, but it worked. She pulled up her presentation. Dozens of slides she had worked on for months. I've developed a new water purification system, Maya began. It uses solar power and special filters to clean dirty water. One small device can provide clean drinking water for an entire village. Elon leaned forward, interested. How small? About the size of a microwave, Maya said, gaining confidence. It costs less than $500 to make, but it can save thousands of lives. She showed him pictures of her prototype. Charts and graphs filled the screen. Test results from the TAI, small lab where she worked alone late into the night. This is incredible, Elon said, studying the data. How much clean water can it produce per day? Up to 1,000 gallons, Maya replied. Enough for 200 people, and it works anywhere there's sunlight. Elon's eyes lit up. Maya, this could help. Millions of people around the world. Why isn't anyone funding this? Maya's shoulders sagged. Because I don't have the right connections. I didn't go to Harvard or MIT. I grew up in a trailer park in New Mexico. My mom cleaned offices at night to pay for my school books. She looked down at her hands. When I present to investors, they see where I come from, not what I've created. They see my old clothes and my taped-up laptop. They don't see the solution. Elon was quiet for a moment. He remembered his own early days as an entrepreneur. The rejection letters. The people who said his ideas would never work. The loneliness of believing in something when nobody else did. Maya, he said softly, what if I told you that sometimes the best revenge against a world that underestimates you is to prove them all wrong? Maya looked up at him. What do you mean? I mean that your background isn't a weakness. It's your strength. You understand problems that rich people never see. You know what it's like to need help. Elon pulled out his phone and made a note. I want to fund your research, but I also want to do something bigger. Bigger how? Elon smiled mysteriously. What if we could create a way to show the world exactly how charity money gets used? What if we could make helping others transparent and beautiful? Maya didn't understand yet, but she could see the excitement in Elon's eyes. I'll set up a foundation to support your work, Elon continued. You'll have the best lab, the best equipment, everything you need. But I want you to work on something else too. What? Holographic technology. I want to create displays that can show people exactly how their donations help others. Real-time images that make charity transparent. Maya's mind raced. That's actually possible. I've been studying holographic projection in my spare time. Perfect, Elon said. But Maya, I need you to promise me something. When we launch this technology, I want to remain anonymous. Can you do that? Why? Elon looked out the window at the gray Detroit sky. Because the moment you make it about yourself, you've missed the point. This isn't about me getting credit. It's about changing how the world works. Maya nodded slowly. I promise. They shook hands across the worn coffee shop table. Maya felt like her life was about to change forever. She was right. Back to the present. Maya's phone rang in her state-of-the-art laboratory. The lab Elon had built for her was like something from a science fiction movie. Gleaming white walls, the latest equipment, computers that could process data faster than she ever imagined. She answered on the first ring. Elon. Maya. It's time to activate Project Constellation. Maya looked around her lab. For 3 months, she had been working on 2 projects. The water purification system was almost ready for mass production. But the holographic technology was what would change everything. On her desk sat dozens of small silver devices. Each one looked like a coin, but they contained the most advanced holographic projectors ever created. They could create 3-dimensional images in the air showing exactly how charity money was being used. Are you sure about this? Maya asked. Once we start, there's no going back. They made their choice, Maya. Now let's show them what real impact looks like. Maya walked to her computer and began typing. Code filled the screen. Satellite connections activated. The silver devices around. The world began to wake up. Elon, Maya said, what exactly happened tonight? Elon's voice was calm but determined. Someone reminded me that the world judges people by their appearance instead of their heart. Tonight, we changed that. Maya's fingers flew across the keyboard. How many locations are we activating? 237, Elon replied. Hospitals, schools, homeless shelters, food banks, all across America. And the timing? Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's when the real show begins. Maya smiled as she worked. 3 months ago, she was a nobody with a dream. Now she was about to help change the world, but she had no idea how big this was about to become. 1 week after the gala rejection, Elon sat in his private office. The the city lights twinkling below his window. His desk was covered with papers, but these weren't the usual business reports. These were lists of hospitals, schools, and shelters across America, places where help was needed most. He picked up his phone and dialed another number. This was his 15th call of the evening. Dr. Williams? This is a representative from the Constellation Foundation, Elon said, changing his voice slightly. We'd like to make a donation to your children's hospital. On the other end, Dr. Williams sounded tired. I'm sorry, but if this is a sales call... No. Doctor, we want to give you $2 million. Silence. Excuse me? Dr. Williams stammered. $2 million for your pediatric cancer ward. No strings attached. But we have one small request. What kind of request? Dr. Williams asked carefully. We'd like you to announce the donation at exactly 8 p.m. Eastern Time this Friday. Can I say? You do that? Yes, of course, but who are you? Why us? Elon smiled. Let's just say we believe in your work, Doctor. Someone will contact you with the details. He hung up and made another note on his list. 1 down, 46 to go. His assistant, James, knocked on the door. Sir, the media is still talking about what happened at the gala. Would you like me to prepare a statement? No statements, James, Elon replied, not looking up from his work. Actions speak louder than words. James noticed the change in his boss. Usually when someone insulted Elon, he would fire back on social media or in interviews. But this time was different. This time, Elon was completely focused, like a chess player planning moves far ahead. Sir, what exactly are you working on? James asked. Elon looked up with a mysterious smile. Something that will make Friday night very interesting. Across the city, Maya worked late in her laboratory. The silver devices were ready, but she wanted to test them one more time. She picked up one of the coin-sized projectors and pressed a small button. A holographic image appeared in the air above the device. It showed a 3D map of a hospital, with glowing lines showing exactly how donation money would be used. New equipment here, medicine there, a new wing for sick children. Perfect, Maya whispered to herself. It's actually working. Each device was programmed to connect with the others. When they all activated at the same time, they would create something nobody had ever seen before. Maya's phone buzzed with a text message from Elon. How many devices are ready? She looked around her lab. Boxes of the silver projectors sat on every table. 237 ready to ship, she texted back. Send them out tomorrow. The recipients are expecting them. Maya smiled. For 3 months, she had wondered when they would use her invention. Now she knew. Friday night would change everything. Meanwhile, Victoria Sterling was having the best week of her life. Talk shows invited her to discuss keeping charity events, focused on real philanthropy. Magazine writers wanted to interview her about maintaining standards in high society. She sat in her penthouse office, looking at newspaper headlines about herself. Society leader protects charity integrity. Read one. Sterling standards. Why exclusivity matters, said another. Her assistant brought her coffee and the morning schedule. You have 3 more interviews today, Mrs. Sterling. Everyone wants to hear about your decision at the gala. Victoria smiled, coldly. Good. People need to understand that charity isn't about publicity stunts. It's about serious people doing serious work. But while Victoria enjoyed her fame, strange things were happening across the country. Dr. Sarah Kim was working late at Children's Memorial Hospital when her phone rang. A representative from something called the Constellation Foundation wanted to donate $10 million to her cancer ward. This has to be a joke, she told her nurse. Nobody donates that much money out of nowhere. But the next morning, her bank called to confirm the deposit. $10 million. Real money. The only condition was that she announced the donation at exactly 8 p.m. on Friday night. Similar calls were happening everywhere. Principal Martinez at Roosevelt Elementary got $5 million for new computers and books. Director Thompson at the downtown homeless shelter received $8 million for a new building. Father O'Brien at St. Mary's Food Bank was promised $6 million for expanded meal programs, all with the same strange timing requirement. Friday, at 8 p.m. Eastern, Detective Ray Torres sat in his office, studying a pattern that was starting to worry him. Anonymous donations totaling over $200 million, all scheduled for announcement at the exact same time. His partner looked over his shoulder. "Ray, what do you think this is? Some kind of scam?" Torres shook his head. "The money is real. I checked. But whoever is doing this has serious resources and military-level coordination. Should we investigate?" Torres looked at the list of recipients. Children's hospitals, schools in poor neighborhoods, homeless shelters, food banks. Investigation of what? Someone giving away their own money to help people? His partner laughed. "When you put it that way, it sounds pretty good." But Torres couldn't shake the feeling that something big was coming, something that would change everything. Back in his office, Elon finished his last phone call of the evening. All 237 donations were confirmed. The recipients had their instructions. Maya's devices were on their way to their destinations. He opened his laptop and pulled up a satellite map of the United States. 237 red dots appeared on the screen, showing where each donation would be announced. When connected, the dots formed a pattern. The pattern of actual constellations in the night sky. James brought him dinner. "Sir, you've been working for 18 hours straight. Maybe you should get some rest." Elon looked out his window at the dark sky above Manhattan. "James, do you know what a constellation is?" "Stars that form patterns, sir?" "That's right. Individual lights that seem small and far apart. But when you connect them, they create something beautiful that can guide people home." James didn't understand, but he could see the excitement in Elon's eyes. "Friday night, James. Friday night we're going to light up the sky." But what exactly would happen on Friday night? And why was Elon so confident that his quiet preparation would become something the whole world would notice? The answer was just 2 days away. Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Victoria Sterling raised her crystal glass filled with expensive champagne. Around her, Manhattan's richest people sat at tables covered with white silk and golden plates. This was her private dinner party at the exclusive Sky Club, 50 floors above the city. "To maintaining our standards," Victoria announced to her guests. "To keeping charity work in the right hands." The wealthy crowd clapped politely. They were still talking about how Victoria had protected her gala from unwanted guests. Tonight felt like a celebration of their exclusive world. Victoria's phone sat silently on the table beside her plate. She had turned off most notifications. Tonight was about enjoying her success. At exactly 8 p.m., the first notification appeared on her screen. Breaking: Children's Hospital receives largest donation in history. Victoria barely glanced at it. Charity news was always popping up somewhere. But then more notifications started. Flooding in, $20 million anonymous donation saves closing elementary school. Homeless shelter receives unexpected $15 million gift. Cancer research lab gets record-breaking funding. Food bank donation will feed thousands. The notifications kept coming, faster and faster. Victoria's friend Margaret leaned over. "Victoria, your phone is going crazy. What's happening?" Other guests started checking their phones too. The same news alerts were appearing everywhere. Anonymous donations totaling massive amounts of money, all announced at the exact same moment. "This is impossible," whispered Robert Nash, the elderly billionaire who had supported Victoria's events for years. "Nobody coordinates charity like this." Victoria's face went pale as she scrolled through the alerts. Over $200 million in donations, all announced within minutes of each other, all from something called the Constellation Foundation. "Who is the Constellation Foundation?" someone asked. Nobody knew, but that was just the beginning. At 8:30 p.m., television stations across America began broadcasting live from the donation sites. The first broadcast came from Children's Memorial Hospital, where Dr. Sarah Kim stood in her cancer ward. "I still can't believe this is real," Dr. Kim said to the camera, tears streaming down her face. "This morning, we were worried about closing our children's cancer program. Tonight, we have enough funding to save hundreds of young lives." She held up a small silver device that looked like a coin. "The Constellation Foundation sent us this along with their donation. They said it would show everyone exactly how their money will be used." Dr. Kim pressed a button on the device. Suddenly, holographic images appeared in the air above her head. Beautiful, glowing 3D pictures showed the hospital's new equipment, the medicine they could buy, the children who would be helped. The holograms were so real, they looked like magic. "This is incredible," Dr. Kim whispered, watching the floating images. "Every dollar is accounted for. Every child who will be helped is shown here." At Victoria's dinner party, the guests stared at the television screens in shock. Nobody had ever seen anything like this before. But the surprises weren't finished. Similar broadcasts began appearing from all across America. Principal Martinez at Roosevelt Elementary stood in his old school cafeteria, holding the same type of silver device. When he activated it, holograms showed new computers, fresh books, and happy children learning. Director Thompson at the downtown homeless shelter activated her device, and holographic images appeared showing new beds, hot meals, and families getting back on their feet. Father O'Brien at St. Mary's Food Bank pressed his device, and the air filled with images of food packages, delivery trucks, and hungry families being fed. Every single broadcast showed the same thing. Real people, real places, real help. And the holographic technology made it impossible to fake or hide anything. Victoria's guests sat in stunned silence, watching broadcast after broadcast. The donations were everywhere. Children's hospitals, homeless shelters, food banks, schools, in poor neighborhoods, senior centers, animal shelters. "How is this possible?" Margaret asked. "Who has this kind of money and technology?" But the most incredible moment was still coming. At 9 p.m. Eastern Time, something magical happened. All 237 holographic displays across America suddenly connected. Streams of light appeared between them, visible from space satellites that were broadcasting the images live. The connected lights formed perfect constellation patterns in the sky above America. The Big Dipper stretched from Maine to Florida. Orion's Belt connected hospitals from California to New York. The North Star appeared above a children's hospital in Minnesota, with lines of light reaching out to schools and shelters in every direction. NASA released the satellite footage immediately. The image spread across social media in seconds. Shul, constellation of hope, began trending worldwide. Victoria stared at the television screen, her champagne glass forgotten in her hand. The holographic lights were beautiful beyond imagination. But more than that, they represented something she had never seen before: complete transparency in charity work. Every donation showed exactly where the money went. Every hologram proved that real people would be helped. There was no waste, no corruption, no hidden fees. Just pure, perfect charity. "My God," whispered Robert Nash. "Whoever did this just revolutionized philanthropy forever." Victoria's phone kept buzzing with news alerts, but she couldn't look away from the television. The constellation pattern was visible from space, photographed by satellites and shared around the world. But something else was happening too. Social media exploded with posts from the donation recipients, doctors, teachers, social workers, and families whose lives had been changed in a single night. Marcus Chen, the security guard from Victoria's gala, posted a picture of his daughter, Lily, in a hospital bed, smiling and healthy. "My daughter just got the surgery we couldn't afford," he wrote. "The Constellation Foundation paid for everything. I don't know who you are, but thank you for giving me my little girl's future back, Victoria." Recognized Marcus from her gala. Her hand started shaking. More posts appeared. A homeless veteran who now had a place to sleep. A single mother whose children's school wouldn't close after all. an elderly man who could afford his medicine again. Every story was real. Every person was helped. Every dollar was accounted for. In the beautiful holographic displays that still glowed across America, Victoria's friend Margaret turned to her. "Victoria, this is the most incredible charity event in history, and it all happened on the same night as your rejection scandal." Victoria's face went white. "What do you mean?" "Think about it. Someone gets rejected from your gala. Then a week later, this happens. Whoever the Constellation Foundation is, they just showed the world what real charity looks like." Victoria's mind raced. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. Someone had planned this. Someone with incredible resources, advanced technology, and a desire to prove a point. "Who could coordinate something like this?" she whispered. On the television, the constellation pattern still glowed in the night sky above America. 237 points of light, all connected, all helping people, all showing the world that charity could be beautiful, transparent, and real. Victoria realized with growing horror that someone had just made her and her exclusive charity events look small, selfish, and meaningless. But who? And how had they done something so impossible? The holographic constellations continued to shine, and Victoria knew that her world would never be the same. The following morning, the world woke up to a different reality. Every news channel, every newspaper, every social media platform was talking about the same thing: the Constellation Foundation and the most incredible charity event in human history. Maya Rodriguez stood in her laboratory, watching the morning news on her computer screen. She hadn't slept all night, but she felt more awake than ever before. Her holographic technology was being called revolutionary and the future of charity transparency. "This is Maya Rodriguez," the news reporter said, showing Maya's picture on screen. "The brilliant scientist behind the holographic technology that made last night's miracle possible." Maya smiled, remembering her promise to Elon. She would never reveal who had funded her research, but she could finally share her own story. Her phone rang constantly. Universities wanted to hire her. Technology companies offered her millions of dollars. The Nobel Prize Committee had already sent an email asking about her availability. But the most important calls came from other scientists. Young researchers from poor backgrounds, just like Maya had been. They had seen her story and felt hope for the first time. "Dr. Rodriguez," said a young man from Texas, "I'm calling from a trailer park in Houston. I have an idea for cleaning ocean pollution, but nobody will listen to me. After seeing what you accomplished, I finally believe I can make a difference too." Maya's eyes filled with tears. This was what Elon had meant about changing the world. Meanwhile, the ripple effects of the Constellation event grew bigger every hour. People across America started asking tough questions about charity organizations. If the Constellation Foundation could show exactly how every dollar was spent, why couldn't other charities do the same? "Where does our money actually go?" became the most common question on social media. Traditional charity organizations scrambled to explain themselves. Many had been hiding their real spending for years, using donation money for expensive offices and high salaries, instead of helping people. Victoria Sterling's phone rang in her penthouse apartment. It was Robert Nash, the billionaire who had supported her events for 15 years. "Victoria, I've been thinking about last night," Robert said, his voice serious. "It was quite a spectacle," Victoria replied carefully. "It was more than that. It was a wake-up call. I just spent all morning looking at my own charity donations from the past 5 years. Do you know how much of my money actually helped people?" Victoria's stomach dropped. Victoria's stomach dropped. "Robert, 30%, Victoria. 30% of the millions I donated through traditional organizations actually reached the people who needed help. The rest went to administrative costs, fancy fundraising, events, and executive salaries." Victoria felt dizzy. "But that's normal for charity work. There are always overhead costs. The Constellation Foundation had zero overhead costs, Robert said coldly. Every single dollar went directly to helping people, and they proved it with technology that made lying impossible. He paused. Victoria, I can't support your organization anymore. I'm moving all my charitable giving to transparent foundations that can prove their impact. The line went dead. Victoria wasn't the only one facing problems. Across the country, traditional charity organizations watched their donations dry up as people demanded transparency. But the ripple effects weren't just about money. They were about people. Marcus Chen sat in his small apartment, holding his daughter Lily on his lap. She was healthy now, thanks to the surgery the Constellation Foundation had paid for. But Marcus couldn't stop thinking about the night he had turned someone away from Victoria's gala. "Daddy, why are you crying?" Lily asked, touching his face. "I'm not crying because I'm sad, sweetheart," Marcus said softly. "I'm crying because I'm sorry. I was mean to someone who was trying to help people like us." Marcus had been promoted at work after his story went viral. His new boss had seen him on the news and was impressed by his honesty about making mistakes. "That security guard has real character," his boss had said. "He admitted he was wrong and showed real humanity. That's the kind of person we want on our team." But Marcus knew he needed to do more than just accept his good fortune. He started a support group for security guards and service workers, teaching them about their rights and dignity. "We're not invisible," he told them at their first meeting. "We matter too, and we should never have to choose between our jobs and our conscience." Dr. Sarah Kim's life changed completely. The publicity from her hospital's donation led to her being offered a position heading a new international children's health program. "6 months ago, I was working 18-hour days just to keep our small cancer ward open," she told a reporter. "Now I'm leading efforts to save children's lives around the world. It feels like I'm living in a dream." But the most surprising change happened to Detective Ray Torres. He had been hired to investigate the Constellation Foundation, but the more he learned, the more he admired whoever was behind it. Torres spent the morning reviewing financial records, satellite data, and technology patents. He was getting close to identifying the Foundation's mysterious leader. "This person has access to space technology, advanced holographic systems, and hundreds of millions of dollars," he told his partner. "There aren't many people in the world with those resources." His partner looked at the list of possible suspects. "So who do you think it is?" Torres stared at the evidence. The timing of the donations, the advanced technology, the perfect coordination. It all pointed to someone with experience in space exploration, revolutionary thinking, and massive resources. "I think I know," Torres said quietly, "but I'm not sure I want to turn them in." "Why not?" Torres looked at the photos covering his desk. Pictures of happy children in hospitals, families in new homes, students with new computers, elderly people with medicine they could finally afford. Because this person didn't commit a crime. They committed the greatest act of charity in human history. Meanwhile, Maya's technology continued spreading around the world. Countries began requiring all public charitable donations to use holographic transparency systems. The European Union announced they would adopt Maya's technology for all government aid programs. Japan requested her help in rebuilding after natural disasters. The United Nations invited her to lead a new global transparency initiative. But Maya never forgot where it all started. In her interviews, she always said the same thing. "My benefactor taught me that the best revenge against people who underestimate you is not to prove them wrong, but to prove everyone else right. Right to believe in hope, in possibility, in the power of human kindness." Victoria watched Maya's interviews from her penthouse, which felt emptier every day. Her staff had quit, her wealthy friends stopped calling, and her charity organization was under investigation. She stared out her window at the city below, wondering who had orchestrated her downfall. Someone with incredible intelligence, unlimited resources, and a desire for justice. Someone who had been rejected from her gala just 1 week ago. But who? 2 weeks later, Victoria Sterling sat alone in her penthouse office, surrounded by boxes of old thank you letters. The letters came from years of charity events, filled with grateful words from wealthy donors who felt good about giving money to her causes. But now those same letters felt hollow. How much of that money had actually helped people? How much had been wasted on fancy parties and expensive decorations? Her assistant had quit yesterday. Her secretary left the week before. Even her cleaning lady stopped coming after Victoria couldn't pay her last month's wages. Victoria's charity organization, Sterling Philanthropic Services, was under investigation by the state attorney general. Donors demanded to know where their money had gone. The media called her events charity theater and giving parties for the rich. Her phone barely rang anymore. When it did, it was usually lawyers or reporters asking uncomfortable questions. She picked up one of the thank you letters from 5 years ago. Dear Ms. Sterling, thank you for the wonderful evening supporting homeless families. It felt so good to make a difference. Victoria laughed bitterly. What difference had they really made? The homeless shelter that letter mentioned had closed 2 years later because they never received enough funding. Meanwhile, Victoria had spent $50,000 on flowers for that one event. Her computer chimed with a news alert. Maya Rodriguez had won another international award for her holographic technology. The young scientist appeared on screen, accepting her prize with tears in her eyes. I want to thank my anonymous benefactor, Maya said to the worldwide audience. This person taught me that true change comes from lifting others up, not tearing them down. They showed me that the best response to rejection is not revenge, but revolution. Victoria turned off the computer. Maya's words stung because they were true. Someone had taken rejection and turned it into the most positive force for change in modern history. But who had that kind of vision, that kind of power? Her doorbell rang. Victoria wasn't expecting anyone. She opened the door to find Detective Ray Torres holding a manila folder. Miss Sterling, I'm Detective Torres. I was hired to investigate the Constellation Foundation. Victoria's heart raced. Come in, please sit down. Did you find out who's behind it? Torres sat on her expensive white couch, looking uncomfortable. Ms. Sterling, before I tell you what I discovered, I need to ask you something. If you could go back to the night of your gala, would you change anything? What kind of question? Is that? Victoria snapped. Of course I would. I'd have better security to keep out the troublemakers. Torres sighed deeply. Then you still don't understand. Understand what? Torres opened his folder and pulled out photographs. Pictures of children in hospital beds, families in new homes, students with computers, elderly people smiling with their medicine. These are the people helped by the Constellation Foundation, Torres said quietly. Over 100,000 lives changed. In a single night, hundreds of thousands more helped since then, as the foundation expanded globally. Victoria looked at the pictures. Real faces, real people, real lives saved and improved. The person you're hunting, Torres continued, didn't just embarrass you. They created the most transparent, effective charity system in human history. They revolutionized how the world thinks about giving. But they destroyed my reputation. They revealed your character, Torres said simply. There's a difference. Victoria stared at him. Are you going to tell me who it is or not? Torres closed the folder. I know who it is. I have proof. Financial, records, technology patents, satellite coordination data. I could expose them today. Then do it. Torres stood up. Miss Sterling, I became a detective to protect innocent people and fight for justice. The person behind the Constellation Foundation has done more for justice in 2 weeks than I've done in 20 years of police work. He walked toward the door. I'm not going to turn them in. Some secrets are worth keeping. Wait! Victoria called out. You can't just leave. I hired you. Torres paused at the door. Actually, you didn't hire me. Someone else did. Someone who wanted to see if you would learn from what happened, or if you would just seek revenge. Victoria's face went pale. What do you mean? I mean, this whole investigation was a test, and you failed. Torres left, taking his folder with him. Victoria sank into her chair, her mind spinning. Someone had hired a detective to investigate themselves? Someone had wanted to see how she would react to her downfall? The pieces were starting to come together. The timing of the Constellation event, the advanced technology, the perfect coordination, the massive resources required. Someone with space technology experience, someone with hundreds of millions of dollars, someone who understood both innovation and charity, someone who had been rejected from her gala exactly 1 week before the Constellation event. Victoria's hands shook as she pulled up news articles from the night of her gala. She found what she was looking for, a small mention in the society pages about tech entrepreneur denied entry to Sterling charity event. The article didn't name the person, but it included a photo of someone walking away from the Crystal Ballroom. The image was blurry, taken from behind, but Victoria recognized the figure. She had seen that same person on television hundreds of times. In interviews about space exploration, electric cars, and revolutionary technology. Someone who had built multiple billion-dollar companies from nothing. Someone who understood what it meant to be underestimated and rejected. Victoria's phone rang. It was her former assistant, calling from her new job. Victoria, I just wanted you to know, I'm working for a charity now that uses the new holographic transparency system. It's incredible. We help more people in 1 week than your organization helped in a year. Sarah, I need to ask you something, Victoria said weakly. The night of the gala, do you remember who we turned away? Sarah was quiet for a moment. You mean the man in the simple tuxedo? The one you said didn't belong because he was about publicity stunts instead of real charity? Victoria's blood ran cold. Do you remember his name? Of course I remember. It was all over the news the next day. You rejected Elon Musk. The phone slipped from Victoria's hand and clattered to the floor. Elon Musk. The man who had revolutionized electric cars, space exploration, and internet payments. The man who had turned rejection into innovation time and time again. The man who had the resources, the technology, and the vision to coordinate the most incredible charity event in history. The man she had humiliated in front of cameras and reporters. Victoria sat in her empty penthouse, finally understanding the full scope of her mistake. She hadn't just rejected a wealthy donor. She had rejected someone who would go on to change the world, and he had done it all without saying a single word against her. 3 weeks after the Constellation event, Detective Ray Torres sat in his car outside the SpaceX building in Los Angeles. Watching engineers and scientists walk in and out of the facility, his final report lay on the passenger seat. 50 pages of evidence that proved beyond any doubt that Elon Musk was behind the Constellation Foundation. The evidence was overwhelming. Financial records showed money flowing from Musk's private accounts through a network of shell companies. Satellite data revealed that SpaceX satellites had been used to coordinate the constellation pattern. The holographic technology patents belonged to a company secretly funded by Musk himself. Torres had even found security footage from the night of the Constellation event, showing Elon making phone calls from his office at exactly the times when donations were being announced across the country. His phone rang. Victoria Sterling's voice was sharp with desperation. Ray, do you have him? Do you have proof? Torres looked at the SpaceX building, then at his report. Victoria, I need to ask you something. What are you planning to do with this information? I'm going to expose him. Victoria's voice cracked with emotion. I'm going to tell the world that Elon Musk destroyed my life for revenge. And then what? Then people will see him for what he really is. A petty, vindictive man who can't handle rejection. Torres sighed. Victoria, this man used his rejection to help 100,000 people. He revolutionized charity worldwide. He created transparency and philanthropy. He made the world better. He humiliated me. He showed the world what real charity looks like, Torres said firmly. Victoria, answer me honestly. Are you angry because he hurt you, or because he proved you wrong? The line went quiet for a long moment. Victoria's voice was smaller now. I don't know anymore. Torres made his decision. He tore up the report and threw the pieces in a trash can. Ray, are you still there? Victoria asked. The investigation is over, Victoria. I'm not taking this case any further. What do you mean? You can't quit now. I'm not quitting. I'm choosing to protect someone who's done more good in 3 weeks than most people do in a lifetime. He hung up and drove away. Inside the SpaceX building, Elon Musk worked late in his office, reviewing plans for the next Mars mission. He had no idea that Detective Torres had been investigating him, or that Victoria Sterling now knew the truth about the Constellation Foundation. His assistant James knocked on the door. Sir, the Constellation Foundation has received over 500 requests from other countries wanting to implement the holographic transparency system. Elon looked up from his work. What did Maya say? She's working around the clock to meet the demand. She says this technology could change how every government and charity in the world operates. Elon smiled. That was always the plan, James. One rejection led to a global revolution. Sir, aren't you worried that someone might figure out you're behind all this? Elon shrugged. If they do, they do. The foundation is legal, the technology is revolutionary, and the results speak for themselves. I'm not hiding from anything. Meanwhile, Maya Rodriguez was experiencing the strangest month of her life. She had gone from unknown scientist to international hero overnight. Universities offered her positions, governments requested her expertise, and tech companies wanted to buy her patents. But she kept her promise to Elon. In every interview, she spoke about her anonymous benefactor without revealing the name. Dr. Rodriguez, a reporter asked during a live television interview, there are rumors that a famous tech entrepreneur funded your research. Can you confirm this? Maya smiled mysteriously. I can tell you that my benefactor is someone who understands what it's like to be underestimated, someone who believes in justice and helping others, someone who taught me that the best response to closed doors is to build something so beautiful that people regret not opening them. But surely you can give us a name. Some heroes prefer to work in the shadows, Maya replied, and some acts of kindness are too pure to be about credit or recognition. The interview went viral, with people around the world speculating about the identity of Maya's mysterious benefactor. Marcus Chen watched the interview from his new apartment. Thanks to his promotion at work and the media attention from his daughter's story, he had been able to move his family to a better neighborhood. But Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that he owed someone an apology. He had been the one to turn away the mysterious person at Victoria's gala. He had been the face of exclusion that night. Daddy, why do you look sad when you watch the news? His daughter Lily asked. Marcus picked her up and held her close. Because I made a mistake, sweetheart. I was mean to someone who was trying to help people like us. Can you say sorry? I don't know how to find them, Lily. I don't even know who they are. Lily thought for a moment with the serious expression that only children can manage. Maybe if you help other people, they'll know you're sorry. Marcus stared at his daughter, amazed by her wisdom. You're right, Lily. Maybe I can't apologize with words, but I can apologize with actions. The next day, Marcus started volunteering at the same children's hospital where Lily had received her surgery. He spent his free time reading to sick kids and helping families navigate the complicated medical system. I can't undo what I did, he told the hospital volunteers, but I can make sure no one else ever feels unwelcome when they need help. Dr. Sarah Kim had similar feelings. Her new position leading international children's health programs had opened her eyes to how the Constellation Foundation had changed everything. Before that night, she told her staff, charity was about rich people feeling good about themselves. Now it's about transparency, effectiveness, and real results. Whoever started this revolution understood that helping others isn't about the giver. It's about the receiver. Back in her penthouse, Victoria Sterling sat alone with the truth. Elon Musk had orchestrated the most perfect revenge in history. He hadn't attacked her directly, hadn't said cruel things about her in the media, hadn't tried to hurt her reputation. Instead, he had made her completely irrelevant by being so much better than her. Victoria looked at her phone, tempted to call reporters and expose Elon's secret. She could tell the world that the great Elon Musk was petty and vindictive, that he had used his wealth and power to destroy her life. But as she thought about it, Victoria realized how that would sound. She would be the bitter woman who couldn't handle being outshined by someone who had helped 100,000 people. She would look small and jealous next to someone who had revolutionized charity worldwide. For the first time in her life, Victoria Sterling was completely powerless, and Elon Musk had done it all without saying a single word against her. 1 month. After the constellation, Victoria Sterling stood outside the SpaceX building in Los Angeles, her hands shaking as she gripped the car door handle. She had flown across the country with one purpose: to confront Elon Musk face to face. For weeks, she had wrestled with what to do. She could go to the media and expose him. She could hire lawyers and claim he had destroyed her business. She could fight back with every weapon she had. But deep down, Victoria knew the truth. Elon hadn't destroyed her business. He had simply shown the world what real charity looked like, and her business couldn't compete with that. She walked through the gleaming lobby of SpaceX, past displays of rockets and satellites. The receptionist looked surprised when Victoria gave her name. "Ms. Sterling, Mr. Musk isn't expecting you." "Tell him Victoria Sterling is here. Tell him I know about the Constellation Foundation." The receptionist made a phone call, spoke quietly for a moment, then hung up with a puzzled expression. "He says to send you up immediately." Victoria rode the elevator to the top floor, her heart pounding. She had rehearsed this conversation 100 times, but now she couldn't remember any of her planned words. The elevator doors opened to reveal a simple office with large windows overlooking the California hills. Elon Musk sat behind a desk covered with rocket blueprints and satellite designs. He looked up when she entered, but his expression wasn't angry or defensive. He looked calm, almost relieved. "Hello, Victoria," he said quietly. "I wondered when you'd figure it out." Victoria stepped into the office, her legs feeling weak. "You knew I would come?" "I hoped you would." Elon gestured to a chair across from his desk. "Please, sit down." Victoria remained standing, trying to maintain her composure. "I know it was you. The Constellation Foundation, the holographic technology, the donations, all of it." "Yes," Elon said simply. "It was me." His calm admission caught Victoria off guard. She had expected him to deny it, to lie, to try to hide the truth. "Why?" she asked, her voice cracking. "Why did you destroy my life?" Elon leaned back in his chair, studying her face. "Victoria, do you really think that's what I did? You ruined my reputation. You took away my donors. You made me look like a fool." "I showed the world what transparent charity looks like," Elon said gently. "I never mentioned your name. I never attacked your organization. I never said a single negative word about you in any interview or statement." Victoria felt tears building in her eyes. "But you knew what would happen to me." "I knew what would happen to dishonest charity organizations," Elon corrected. "I knew that when people saw real transparency, they would demand it everywhere else." He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the sky where his rockets had flown. "Victoria, the night you rejected me from your gala, you did me a favor." "A favor?" Victoria's voice was incredulous. "You reminded me of something I had forgotten. You reminded me that the most powerful response to exclusion isn't anger, it's inclusion. The best answer to being rejected isn't to reject others back, it's to accept everyone. Elon turned to face her. That night, I could have gone home and complained on social media. I could have bought negative stories about you in the newspapers. I could have used my money and influence to hurt you directly. Victoria wiped her eyes, listening despite herself. But what would that have accomplished? Elon continued, It would have made me feel better for maybe a day. Instead, I chose to channel that energy into something positive, something that would help people. But you knew it would hurt me. I knew it would make you irrelevant if you continued running charity like a social club for rich people, Elon said honestly. But I also knew it would give you an opportunity to become something better. Victoria stared at him. What do you mean? Elon walked back to his desk and pulled out a folder. Do you know what I've been doing for the past month, Victoria? I've been watching the ripple effects of the Constellation event. He opened the folder and showed her photographs. Marcus Chen volunteering at the Children's Hospital, Dr. Sarah Kim leading international health programs, Maya Rodriguez inspiring young scientists around the world. Your rejection that night led to this, Elon said, spreading the photos on his desk. One moment of exclusion sparked a global movement of inclusion. Victoria looked at the photos through her tears. But what about me? What am I supposed to do now? What do you want to do? The question caught Victoria off guard. For weeks, she had been focused on who to blame, how to fight back, how to regain what she had lost. She hadn't thought about what she actually wanted. Victoria sat down heavily in the chair. I don't know. I used to think I was helping people, but now I realize I was just helping myself feel important. Elon sat down across from her. Victoria, do you know why I really agreed to see you today? She shook her head. Because I wanted to give you the same choice I had that night. You can focus on the past and stay angry about what happened, or you can focus on the future and decide what kind of person you want to become. Victoria looked around the office, at the rocket plans, the satellite designs, the evidence of dreams, becoming reality. How do you do it? How do you turn rejection into something positive? You start by accepting that the rejection wasn't about you, Elon said. It was about them. And then you decide that you're going to prove everyone right who believes in hope, kindness, and possibility. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. Elon, I owe you an apology. No, you don't. Yes, I do. That night at the gala, I judged you without knowing you. I decided you didn't belong based on my own prejudices and fears. Elon smiled slightly. Victoria, do you know what the best apology is? What? It's not words. It's becoming the person you wish you had been in the first place. Victoria felt something shift inside her chest. For the first time in weeks, she wasn't thinking about what she had lost. She was thinking about what she could become. What if I can't change? She asked quietly. What if I'm too set in my ways? Then you'll stay exactly where you are, Elon said simply. But if you can change, if you can learn from this, then that night at the gala will become the best thing that ever happened to both of us. Victoria stood up slowly. What would you do if you were me? Elon considered the question seriously. I'd find a way to help the people I overlooked before. I'd learn from the scientists, doctors, and social workers who are actually changing the world. And I'd remember that real power comes from lifting others up, not from keeping them out. Victoria walked toward the door, then turned back. Elon, why are you being so kind to me? After what I did, you have every right to hate me. Elon's smile was genuine and warm. Victoria, carrying hate is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I learned a long time ago that forgiveness isn't for the other person. It's for yourself. As Victoria left the SpaceX building, She felt something she hadn't experienced in years: hope. For the first time since the Constellation event, she wasn't thinking about revenge or getting even. She was thinking about getting better. 6 weeks after the Constellation, the Nobel Prize ceremony in Stockholm was the most watched award show in years. People around the world tuned in to see Dr. Maya Rodriguez accept the Peace Prize for her revolutionary holographic transparency technology. Maya stood at the podium in the Grand Concert Hall, looking out at an audience of world leaders, scientists, and dignitaries. She wore a simple blue dress, her hair pulled back in the same style she had worn in that Detroit coffee shop 6 months ago. 6 months ago, I was nobody, Maya began, her voice clear and strong. I lived in a tiny apartment, worked alone in a basement lab, and couldn't get anyone to listen to my ideas. The audience listened intently, many of them knowing parts of her story from interviews and documentaries. I was rejected by every investor I met. They looked at my background, my appearance, my old equipment, and decided I wasn't worth their time. Maya paused, emotion creeping into her voice. They saw where I came from, instead of where I was going. In the back row of the auditorium, Elon Musk sat quietly in a simple black suit. He had tried to avoid the ceremony, but Maya had, personally, invited him. Most people in the audience didn't notice him there. But one person saw something different, Maya continued. Someone who understood that the best ideas often come from unexpected places, from people who others overlook. The cameras focused on Maya as she pulled out her phone, showing a message on the screen. That person sent me this text on the night. They changed my life forever. Maya, they rejected me tonight, but they gave us an opportunity to show the world what real impact looks like. Let's light up the sky with hope. Murmurs spread through the audience as people leaned forward with interest. My benefactor never asked for credit, never wanted recognition, never made this about themselves. Maya's voice grew stronger. They taught me that true change happens when you focus on helping others rather than hurting your enemies. She looked directly at the back row, making eye contact with Elon. Ladies and gentlemen, the person who funded my research, who believed in me when no one else would, who turned rejection into revolution, is here with us tonight. The audience stirred with excitement, cameras panning across the crowd. This person didn't just give me money, they gave me hope. They showed me that when someone closes a door in your face, you don't break it down. You build something so beautiful that they regret not opening it in the first place. Maya's voice filled with emotion. Elon Musk, would you please stand up? Auditorium erupted in shocked murmurs as every camera turned toward the back row. Elon looked genuinely surprised. He clearly hadn't expected Maya to reveal his identity tonight. Slowly, Elon stood up. The audience exploded into applause that went on for several minutes. People rose to their feet, giving him a standing ovation that seemed to shake the building. Maya waited for the applause to die down before continuing. Elon, you taught me that the most powerful revenge isn't getting even with those who reject you. It's proving everyone else right to believe in hope, in possibility, in the power of human kindness. The cameras captured Elon's face as he smiled and nodded slightly, clearly moved by Maya's words. Later at the reception, reporters surrounded Elon with microphones and cameras. The secret was out, and everyone wanted to know the full story. Mr. Musk, one reporter called out, is it true that the Constellation Foundation was your response to being rejected from Victoria Sterling's charity gala? Elon thought carefully before answering. The rejection that night reminded me of an important truth, that real change happens when you channel negative energy into positive action. But wasn't this elaborate revenge against Ms. Sterling? Elon shook his head. This was never about Victoria Sterling. This was about the 100,000 people we helped that first night, and the millions more who have been helped since then through transparent charity systems worldwide. Another reporter pushed forward. Mr. Musk, you spent over $200 million and used advanced satellite technology just to prove a point. Don't you think that's excessive? I think it's excessive that we ever accepted charity systems that couldn't show us exactly how our money was being used, Elon replied. Maya's technology didn't just create pretty light shows, it created accountability. What would you say to Victoria Sterling now, if she were listening? Elon paused, looking directly into the camera. I'd say thank you. Her rejection that night led to something far more important than any charity gala. It led to a global revolution in how we think about giving and helping others. You'd thank her? Absolutely. Sometimes our greatest gifts come disguised as our biggest disappointments. The interview clips went viral within hours. Thank You Victoria began trending on social media as people around the world celebrated the unexpected wisdom in Elon's response. Her New York apartment, Victoria Sterling watched the Nobel Prize ceremony and the interviews that followed. She sat alone on her couch, tears streaming down her face as she heard Elon thank her on international television. For months, she had expected him to attack her when the truth came out. She had braced herself for his anger, his revenge, his public humiliation of her. Instead, he had thanked her. Victoria's phone buzzed with text messages from old friends who had seen the interviews. Messages she hadn't received in weeks. Victoria, I just saw Elon Musk thank you on TV. What an incredible story. Did you know you inspired the Constellation Foundation? That's amazing. Victoria, you should be proud. Your actions led to something beautiful. Victoria laughed through her tears. Even now, even after everything, Elon was making her look better than she deserved. Her phone rang. It was Dr. Sarah Kim from Children's Memorial Hospital. Ms. Sterling? This is Dr. Kim. I hope you don't mind me calling, but I saw the news tonight about Mr. Musk and the Constellation Foundation. Dr. Kim, Mrs. Sterling, I want you to know that Mr. Musk's donation has saved 47 children's lives so far. 47 kids who are alive today because of what happened that night at your gala. Victoria was quiet, listening. I don't know the full story of what happened between you and Mr. Musk, Dr. Kim continued, but I know that somehow your paths crossing led to miracles for these families. I wanted to thank you for whatever role you played in that. After Dr. Kim hung up, Victoria sat in the silence of her apartment. For the first time in months, she wasn't thinking about what she had lost. She was thinking about what had been gained: 47 children's lives, thousands of families with homes, students with education, elderly people with medicine, all because she had made a mistake that led Elon Musk to create something beautiful. Victoria walked to her computer and began typing an email. It was time to stop hiding and start helping. But first, she had a letter to write to someone who had shown her what grace really looked like. The ultimate revelation, Victoria Sterling stood outside the SpaceX building once again. But this time, she wasn't angry or desperate. She carried a handwritten letter in a simple white envelope. No fancy letterhead, no expensive paper, just honest words on regular stationery. The receptionist recognized her immediately. Ms. Sterling, should I call Mr. Musk? No, thank you. I'd like to deliver this personally, but I don't need to see him. Just make sure he gets it. Victoria placed the letter on the reception desk and turned to leave. But as she reached the door, she heard a familiar voice behind her. Victoria. She turned around to see Elon walking across the lobby, wearing jeans and a simple shirt. He looked tired, but peaceful. I wasn't expecting to see you again so soon, he said with a gentle smile. Victoria felt her carefully planned words disappear. I came to give you something. Elon walked over to the reception desk and picked up the letter. He looked at it for a moment, then back at Victoria. Would you like to come up to my office? We can talk while I read this. Victoria nodded, and they rode the elevator in comfortable silence. Once in his office, Elon sat down and carefully opened the envelope. Victoria watched as his eyes moved across the page, reading her words. Dear Elon, I don't know how to write this letter. I've started it a dozen times, but every word feels too small for what I need to say. I watched your interview last night. I heard you thank me on international television. I heard you say that my rejection led to something beautiful. I cried for 2 hours. Not because I was sad, but because I finally understood what grace looks like. For months, I've been angry at you for destroying my life. But you didn't destroy anything. You revealed what was already broken. You showed me that I had forgotten why I started doing charity work in the first place. 20 years ago, I began organizing charity events because I wanted to help people. But somewhere along the way, I started caring more about the events than the people. I started caring more about exclusivity than inclusion. I started caring more about looking good than doing good. The night I rejected you, I thought I was protecting something precious. But I was protecting the wrong thing. I was protecting my own ego instead of protecting the people who needed help. You could have destroyed me in the media. You could have used your wealth and influence to hurt me. You could have made me a villain in your story. Instead, you made me irrelevant by being so much better than me. And when the world finally learned the truth, you thanked me. I don't deserve your kindness, Elon, but I'm grateful for it. You've shown me that the most powerful response to cruelty isn't more cruelty. It's kindness, so overwhelming that it transforms everyone it touches. I'm writing to tell you that I'm starting over. I'm volunteering at Dr. Kim's hospital. I'm working with Maya's foundation to help young scientists. I'm learning what real charity looks like. I'm also writing to ask you something, not for money, not for forgiveness, but for guidance. How do I become the person I should have been from the beginning? Thank you for showing me that redemption is possible, even for someone who had lost her way as completely as I had. With genuine gratitude and respect. Victoria. Elon finished reading and looked up at Victoria, who was standing by the window, looking out at the California hills. Victoria, he said softly, this is one of the most honest letters I've ever received. She turned around, her eyes bright with unshed tears. Is it too late? Am I too old to change? Elon stood up and walked over to her. Victoria, do you know what I've learned about change? It's never about age or time, it's about choice. Every day. We choose who we want to be. But how do I know if I'm changing for the right reasons? How do I know I'm not just trying to make myself feel better? Elon smiled. The fact that you're asking that question tells me you're changing for the right reasons. Victoria looked around the office, at the rocket plans and satellite designs, at the evidence of dreams becoming reality. Elon, I need to confess something. I hired Detective Torres to investigate you. I wanted to expose you and get revenge. I know, Elon said calmly. Victoria stared at him. You know? I hired Detective Torres myself. I wanted to see what you would do when you learned the truth. I wanted to see if you would choose revenge or redemption. Victoria's mouth dropped open. You hired him to investigate yourself? I hired him to test you, Elon said gently. I wanted to know if you were capable of growth or if you would just stay angry forever. That's impossible. Why would you do that? Elon walked back to his desk and pulled out a folder. Because I've been where you are, Victoria. I've been rejected, humiliated, and counted out. I know what it feels like to want revenge. He opened the folder and showed her newspaper clippings from years ago. Headlines about his early failures, harsh criticism of his ideas, people who said, he would never succeed. I could have spent my life angry at every person who doubted me, Elon continued. But I learned something important. The energy you spend on revenge is energy you can't spend on building something better. Victoria looked at the old newspaper clippings. So you were testing me to see if I could learn the same lesson? I was giving you the same choice I had. You could focus on the past and stay bitter, or you could focus on the future and become better. Victoria sat down heavily in a chair. And if I had chosen revenge? If I had tried to expose you? Elon shrugged. Then you would have looked petty and vindictive next to someone who had helped 100,000 people. The truth would have spoken for itself. But you believed I could choose differently, I hoped you could. Hope is a powerful thing, Victoria. It's what drove me to keep building rockets when everyone said I was crazy. It's what drove Maya to keep believing in her research when everyone ignored her. And it's what made me believe that even someone who had lost their way could find it again. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. What happens now? Now you do what you said in your letter. You help people. You work with Dr. Kim and Maya. You become the person you wish you had been from the beginning. And you'll help me? Elon smiled. Victoria, I'm not the one who needs to help you. You need to help yourself. But I will say this. The world needs more people who are willing to admit their mistakes and work to fix them. Victoria stood up and walked toward the door. Elon, I have one more question. Why did you really come to my gala that night? You could have donated to charity quietly, without any public events. Elon thought for a moment. Because I wanted to meet other people who cared about helping others. I thought I might find kindred, spirits, people who shared my values. And instead you found me. And instead I found an opportunity to create something better than any gala could ever be. Victoria paused at the door. Thank you, Elon. Not for forgiving me, but for believing I could be better. Thank you for proving me right, Elon replied. As Victoria left the SpaceX building for the second time, she felt completely different than she had after her first visit. She wasn't angry anymore, wasn't desperate, wasn't looking for someone to blame. She was looking for someone to help. The gymnasium at Roosevelt Elementary School buzzed with excitement. This wasn't a fancy ballroom or exclusive club. It was a simple school gym decorated with handmade banners and children's artwork. But tonight, it hosted the most important charity event of the year. Dr. Maya Rodriguez stood at a microphone in the center of the gym, surrounded by doctors, teachers, social workers, and families whose lives had been changed by the Constellation Foundation. 6 months ago, we proved that charity doesn't need to be exclusive to be effective, Maya announced to the crowd. Tonight, we celebrate the people who make real change possible. She gestured to Marcus Chen, who was being honored for his work advocating for service workers' rights. Marcus teaches us that admitting our mistakes is the first step toward making things right. The crowd applauded as Marcus stood up, his daughter Lily beaming beside him. And Dr. Sarah Kim, Maya continued, who shows us that helping others is the best way to help ourselves. Dr. Kim waved from her table, surrounded by families of children whose lives had been saved by the Constellation Foundation's donations. But tonight, I want to recognize someone special, someone who learned that the most beautiful transformation isn't changing others, it's changing yourself. Maya smiled at the back of the gym, where Victoria Sterling was serving food to the guests. Victoria wore a simple volunteer t-shirt and had her hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She looked happier than she had in years. Victoria Sterling has spent the past 6 months volunteering at children's hospitals, working with young scientists, and learning what real charity looks like. She's proof that it's never too late to become the person you're meant to be. The crowd applauded as Victoria looked up from serving food, her face flushed with embarrassment and pride. Near the back of the gym, Elon Musk watched quietly, wearing jeans and a t-shirt that read, Constellation Foundation Volunteer. He had tried to slip in unnoticed, but James had spotted him. Sir, the media is here. They want to interview you about the Foundation's first anniversary. Not tonight, James, Elon said, watching Victoria serve food to a family with 3 young children. Tonight is about them. As he spoke, Victoria caught his eye across the crowded gym. She mouthed, "Thank you," and he nodded, smiling. A young reporter approached him. "Mr. Musk, can you comment on the success of the Constellation Foundation?" Elon looked around the gym, at the families laughing together, the children playing, the volunteers working side by side, the doctors and teachers sharing stories of lives changed. "The success isn't measured in dollars donated or lives saved," he said quietly. "It's measured in moments like this, when people who were once enemies become allies in helping others." What's next for the foundation? Elon smiled, watching Victoria help an elderly man to his seat. We keep proving that the most powerful force in the universe isn't revenge or anger or exclusion. It's the simple act of helping someone who needs it. As the evening wound down, the gymnasium slowly emptied. Victoria finished cleaning up, her volunteer t-shirt stained with food and her hair falling out of its ponytail. She looked around the simple gym, comparing it to the crystal ballrooms and fancy hotels where she used to host events. This place was humble, unpretentious, and real. It was perfect. Victoria picked up her purse and walked toward the exit, but stopped when she saw Elon by the door. "Good event tonight," he said simply. "Thank you for coming," Victoria replied. "I know you don't like the attention. I came because I'm proud of you," Elon said. "Not many people have the courage to completely change their lives." Victoria looked back at the gym one more time. "You know what the strange thing is? I'm happier now than I ever was before. Serving food to families, helping kids with their homework, working with young scientists. It's more fulfilling than any exclusive party I ever threw." "That's because you're finally doing what you were meant to do," Elon said. As they walked out of the school together, Victoria asked, "Do you ever regret it? The Constellation event, I mean. All that money, all that technology, just to teach someone like me a lesson?" Elon stopped walking and looked up at the night sky. Real stars were visible here, away from the city lights. "Victoria, that night didn't just teach you a lesson. It taught the whole world that charity can be transparent, that help can come from unexpected places, and that the best response to closed doors is to build something so beautiful that everyone wants to be inside." Victoria followed his gaze to the stars above. "I suppose you're right. Besides," Elon added with a smile, "the best revenge isn't getting even. It's making the world better and bringing your enemies along for the ride." Victoria laughed, the first genuine laugh she'd had in months. "Is that what you did? Brought me along for the ride?" "I gave you a choice," Elon said. "You chose to come along. That's what makes all the difference." As they reached their cars, Victoria turned to Elon one last time. "What would you have done if I hadn't changed? If I had stayed angry and bitter?" Elon considered the question seriously. "Then I would have been sad for you, but I still would have been grateful. Because your rejection that night led to something beautiful, regardless of what you chose to do with it. Even if I hadn't learned anything, even then. Sometimes the most important lessons aren't for the person who needs to learn them most. Sometimes they're for everyone else who's watching." Victoria got in her car and drove away, but she wasn't alone anymore. She had work to do, people to help, and a second chance at making a real difference. Behind her, Elon looked up at the constellation of stars one more time. The real ones, not the holographic ones that had lit up the sky 6 months ago. Both were beautiful. Both guided people home. The difference was that the real stars had been there all along, waiting for someone to notice them. Just like the capacity for redemption that existed in every person, waiting for the right moment to shine. What? An incredible journey from rejection to redemption. Elon showed us that the most powerful revenge isn't hurting those who hurt us. It's helping others and proving that kindness always wins. Where are you listening from right now? Drop your city or country in the comments below. I love hearing from our amazing community around the world. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that we all have the power to choose kindness over cruelty, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. When you subscribe, you're helping us spread more stories of hope, forgiveness, and the amazing things that happen when people choose to lift each other up instead of tear each other down. And speaking of incredible stories of transformation, make sure you click on the video appearing on your screen right now. It's another powerful tale that will remind you why choosing compassion over revenge can change everything. Thank you for being part of our community. And remember, the next time someone closes a door in your face, maybe it's time to build something so beautiful that the whole world wants to see it. Until next time, Keep spreading kindness.